Once upon a time, in a quiet little town lined with oak trees and sun-dappled sidewalks, there lived a boy and a girl who were childhood best friends. Their names were Ethan and Lila. They met when they were just 5 years old, at a neighborhood block party. Ethan had dropped his ice cream cone and burst into tears, and without hesitation, Lila, holding her own untouched cone, walked over and handed it to him with a smile. From that moment on, they were inseparable. They spent their childhood building forts out of blankets, chasing fireflies in the summer, and having whispered conversations under the stars. They went to the same schools, sat next to each other in class whenever possible, and even made a pact in 4th grade to never let anything come between them. But time has a way of testing even the strongest promises. As they entered high school, their worlds began to shift. Lila started hanging out with a different crowd, kids who wore leather jackets, blasted music from their cars, and went to parties every weekend. She was drawn to the excitement, the feeling of being part of something new. Ethan, on the other hand, was more reserved. He joined the photography club, spent his weekends volunteering at the local animal shelter, and still treasured the quiet moments of simplicity. Slowly, almost imperceptibly at first, they began to drift apart. Lila stopped replying to Ethan's texts as quickly. She canceled plans. When they passed in the halls, her smile grew a little more distant. Ethan didn't blame her, he just missed her. He watched from afar as she laughed with new friends, her voice echoing through corridors they used to walk side by side. By their senior year, they hardly spoke at all. It wasn't until years later, after college and failed relationships and all the chaos of early adulthood, that fate brought them back together. Lila was walking through a farmer's market in their hometown one breezy Saturday morning, lost in thought, when she saw him. Ethan was crouched beside a stall, taking pictures of blooming lavender bunches. He looked older, sure, but something about him hadn't changed. Maybe it was the way his hair still fell into his eyes, or the gentle, focused way he looked at the world. Their eyes met. And just like that, like no time had passed at all, he smiled. They sat down at a nearby coffee stand and talked for hours. About everything. About nothing. About who they used to be and who they had become. And for the first time in a long time, Lila felt something that had been missing. That night, as she sat on her childhood bed, she thought about how much Ethan had meant to her. How maybe, deep down, her feelings had always been more than just friendship. How maybe, all those years ago, she had been afraid of change, of growing up, of love. And now, here she was. Older. Wiser. And finally ready to say the words she had held in for too long. The next day, she called him. "Ethan," she said, voice trembling just a little. "I think I've always loved you. I just didn't know it back then." And this time Ethan didn't have to say anything. He just took her hand, like he always used to, and smiled. Because sometimes, the best stories aren't about who you meet, but when you're finally ready to come back to them.